Okay.
We go live.
Yay.
Alright, so that goes there with that. Click this thing. Watch that thing. Do this. Up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is in process. And that is in process. That does not happen yet. Okay. Close. Oops. Ooh, okay. And there's that. Such a stimulating pre-show. Poop.
I mean, maybe there was some stimulating done during pre-show.
Whoa. Okay.
I mean, you can't see me.
We're not going to touch that one. We're not going to touch that one. We're just going to leave that one alone. We're just going to be like, okay.
Gary's wheels are turning.
No, because there's only maybe one. No, all right. Two out of the three of y'all will understand the skewed reference I'm about to make. I'd like you to keep it on, please.
There you go. Yes. Perfect.
Chris with
slow caps.
Golf claps.
No. So maybe you were doing it because I was looking down, but golf claps are still like,
Yes.
kind of the quiet claps. Which, by the way, side note, because I watched some golf this past week.
Why?
Oh, for work.
For work.
David, it's for work.
Remember what I do.
That's
The
right.
moment you started to utter why, I was like,
you know my job. You know, my job is to watch TV all day. Or for a good chunk of it. Not necessarily something I want to watch. Although today it's going to be great. The only thing is I'm getting spoilers because I get to watch the Overwatch finals because they're airing on ABC.
oh.
I get to watch at least 20 different channels of it. It's great. We had it on one of our big screen TVs. Oh! I mean, I'm gaming, flaming out. Anyways. Which seems very appropriate. Anyways, I was watching golf.
Go ahead.
So I was watching golf, and I keep coming up with this thing. I'm like, why do the announcers always talk with that soft golf announcer voice? You know, like they're at the putt on the 18th hole. When the casters are in the clubhouse watching video of the event, and no matter how loud they talk, they're not going to affect the golfer at all.
Well, think about it this way. How would you feel watching golf or looking at golf or, well, either one of those, which, yeah. And someone's going, and there goes the cup. There goes the ball.
I mean, I'm not necessarily expecting them to be like the soccer announcer voice, but they don't have to do the intentional, soft, quiet voice. He goes up to the birdie and putts. And it's in!
Hole in one! Ah!
I think...
No.
So for what little of golf I've seen, I think it's because it's such an intense sport. There's this like cultural reverence for being quiet so that the golfer can concentrate. And yes, while the commentators and everybody else are not there and the crowd cannot hear what is being said, I think as a viewer, there's probably an expectation that you can hear the wind and the birds and the crowd in the background. So that's why we talk
It's more in the
quiet.
mood.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the deal. And that's just a guess on my part because I really don't give a shit because for quite a long time I was part of that contingency that said golf is a lovely walk in the park and like interrupted with annoying white ball in the middle of it. So, but that's just me.
I mean, yeah. Also, on a side note, as a slight like observation of my job is we have the categories for the show titles on a sheet, and whenever we have college basketball, we have two different college basketballs. We have college basketball and we have women's college basketball. And every time just says college basketball, it's always men's college basketball. So I'm wondering, so I keep saying here, isn't it kind of misogynistic just to say college basketball and just assume that we know that it's men's college basketball? I know it's really more of a just like hand me down, it's always been that way sort of thing. But because like when I go to like our sports handbook, which goes through it, we literally have the title of men's college basketball, women's college basketball there. Just on the sheet, which talks about the actual programs, it says college basketball or women's college basketball. So I'm wondering, is it slightly misogynistic to not have men's college basketball?
Yeah.
Basically the men in front of college basketball? Because it is literally men's college basketball.
So the answer to your question is yes, it's misogynistic, and that would just be not paid attention to or not given no fucks by someone somewhere is making that decision.
Because it's just how it's been for such a long time, and
Well,
equality is hard.
I know, right?
It's been a while. It's been quite a while since there's been like women's, basketball. I mean, I'm not saying anything, against it. So like, that's just like.
No, you're
like you
just
said,
totally being misogynistic right now.
Yeah, it's a totally misogynistic thing.
I'm not saying this is like super misogynistic or anything. It's just a mild observation that it's still that way when you think we've at least progressed enough where you would think that they would have, at least be starting to list it as men's college basketball and women's college basketball between the two.
You would think.
You are applying logic. Be careful. It's very dangerous in this world. Especially in today's day and age.
True, in fact. Okay.
Thank you, Monique Hart. Are we ready to begin?
I think
Sure.
we are. I think so.
I suppose. So, Chris, because of the current version of Skype, you will not necessarily be able to hear our sound effects. However, I do usually try to share my screen so you can see my little... Let's take a snapshot, not share screen. Okay, cool. I do try to share my screen, so even if the...
Thanks. That looks wonderful.
We all look so fabulous.
Yeah. And
Why is there an echo?
I don't know. I'm not hearing one.
I'm not hearing it
But-
either.
So my shouncer suddenly stopped. So it didn't do it. So you should see the sound stuff here on my shared screen. And then once I'm done playing sound effects, I will stop. Because right now you guys are like stuttering.
Yeah.
That might just be an overall Skype thing, but whatever. Although I think my computer is stuttering too. Hey, folks, remember that Patreon thing?
Ain't gonna happen fast enough, so.
I know. I'm just giving you little nudges. Okay. Anyways, let's go to this, and then this. All right. Here we go. And in 3, and a 2, and a 1. It's Sunday, March 24th, 2019. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
And do we have it
And
muted?
that
Oh.
makes me carry.
Don't hurt nobody with your bad self.
Welcome to Comes Out Loud, the Bear Podcast of Indeterminate Lengths, episode number 503. Yeah, I know exactly what number it is, really. I do. And there's a whole bunch of Skype fuckery and lag.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think it's you. Sympathetic apology?
No, I'm just saying sorry because
Sympathetic apology.
yeah.
Like, it's not your fault, but you're sympathizing
But-
with the fuckery.
But sorry.
All right. Anyways, we have with us Mr. Chris Diorio.
Hello.
Back again after a while. I don't remember. When was the last time we were on?
Episode
Last year.
452.
Okay. So we're glad to have you back. Today we're talking about... Well, Gary, why don't you introduce us to the topic?
Well, before that, just so everybody knows, the reason why Chris is on is because Chris reached out and touched somebody. I mean, he sent a message. It was kind of comical. All of a sudden, Chris reached out and he's like, "Hey, I just realized that it was like a year ago I was on the show." Oh, very cool. You want to come back?
Okay. I enjoy doing stuff like this, and so I was like, if you guys want me back on, if you have something for me to talk about, sure.
Well, and I was like, what is Chris really good at that we can talk about and stream legally on YouTube?
There's
And
Rob. Like I'm sure he's good at a lot of things. But...
no pun on rub, but but no, I what I know of you and your career, you've been involved in video gaming for quite some time, and did quality control, I believe, was kind of the realm that you were in. So, and it got me thinking about how there's a topic that I've sort of been interested in for a number of years that we've never broached. And so I was like, well, if we have Chris on, we'll just have a crazy chat about something that maybe none of us are experts in, and like see how it kind of works out. And the topic is gaming characters, as in GAYMING. And the concept that I was thinking of is I never understand Gamergate things when they bubble up into the pop culture about the misogyny and the homophobia and like fans freaking out when they find out certain things. And I'm just kind of like, I understand like you're very passionate about a subject.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's just a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can have a chat about the LGBTQ characters in games. And then as I was learning, as we were previously a couple weeks ago when we lined this up to discuss, I don't know jack about gaming, especially when it comes to video gaming. 'Cause I don't even remember how I made the reference to Damon and Jeff because I said something. Because Jeff questioned like what type of games, I think, or something. And I was like,
I think it was just dealing with your verbiage.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
Because in my head, I was like, I don't know, like the ones on the screen, like, you know, streaming, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Like, I watch other people play them on Twitch, which is very, very few and far between. Because I know just a couple people that use Twitch that are friends of mine. So, anyways.
I like the console versus computer, and I'm like, well. Or he said console game versus streaming, and I'm like, what? I mean, console versus computer games?
Yeah.
Because you can stream console games or computer games.
Yeah. And that'll be a war that goes on forever.
Well, okay, so
Well,
how
fine.
a layperson like me who never really games, I'm an old school gamer in that one, I am gay, hi, and two, like any gaming I've ever really done has 95% been either tabletop. I guess that's actually the big category because it's cards, board games, that kind of stuff. So like I've very limited played video games. In fact, I just realized that I haven't touched a game that has been on my iPad now in a couple of months, which probably means that everything has died. Oops.
Oh, Tamagotchis.
Actually,
God.
it's shelter. Anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're probably dead by now.
Yeah, they're all dead.
Fuck. Well, that's okay because I got to the stage where I was just waiting to like complete damn near everything. Anyways, it was kind of boring at that point. Hence, I wasn't playing every day. So, but yeah, like I understand that there is a war or high opinions, whichever you want to say, about which is better. I guess in platform, like console versus PC, I guess is really what it's about. Or
Yes. A lot of it comes from the fact that consoles are basically these all-in-one boxes. They're basically mini computers that are made just to play video games.
Right.
And then certain video game developers will allow their games to be on only certain platforms. They'll go against each other when it comes to specs, when it comes to their video game lineup, what have you. On the PC side of things, folks see it sometimes as more accessible because you can have that one box and continuously upgrade it as new things come out, as new requirements for the hardware comes out. And there's also a lot more you can do on a computer in terms of frame rate. Certain games may work better, like first-person shooter games like Overwatch or Call of Duty or anything like that, may be a little bit easier to play on a PC because you have that point-and-click ability rather than tilting a joystick every which direction. So there will always be that. The thing is, to get a high-quality PC, that's going to put you out a couple $1,000s maybe. And that becomes the problem, especially with the upgrading. So while PC will tend to get, for a lot of people, a better experience, the console ends up being a little bit more accessible because it is a flat price. You just don't have the upgradability, and then once they decide to come out with the new console, you just have to buy the new thing. Question of whether or not your games are still going to be able to play on it, and there's always pros and cons to both. And it's just certain people fall into certain categories, and they decide to just gung-ho with what they love. It's Valentina fan, so...
Yeah.
Right.
I'm buying that fact in the fact that I like both. I just happen to just have a computer and haven't just. Well, I do have a 3DS and I really want to switch, but that's about it. So
yeah, I have them all. So.
Oh, okay.
Wait, are you saying you have like all like consoles and PC stuff, or
I have every current generation console, so the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch, as well as a gaming level PC.
Oh.
Well, as I used to say back in the day, smell you.
Well, I mean, so I got this gaming PC because I was going to start doing some development on my own just to get my portfolio together. So to have that kind of power helps me out a lot more. And now I'm not doing that anymore, so I just have it, and now I'm playing video games and watching porn.
But fair
Welcome
enough.
to the normal age of being a bear, I guess. So,
I mean, you could play video games while watching porn. I mean,
You-
or getting
or you could just play a game that is porn.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
As was just
True.
discussed in the live chat, there's many things some of the guys are talking about. But Chris, have you played Strange Flesh?
Yes, I have, and I've unlocked every ending.
Same here.
As have I. I have to admit,
apparently.
I have never thought about a video game being sexy, but I'm not. I think because of my age and some of my experience when I was younger, like Atari was a thing when I was a kid. So I never imagined like little pixel blocks being sex. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't making that connection. And then by the time puberty came around, I was like much more into like photography and that kind of stuff. But when Strange Flesh came out, I was like, well, this is interesting. And then I started playing it. And I was like, oh, this is
I mean,
different.
it's all about sex
It's
Well,
literally,
and kink.
Correct.
yeah.
But I wasn't prepared for pixelated art in motion that like turned me on. Like I was like, whoa, okay. I get to play this big brutish daddy that like, you know, basically blows smoke in people's faces and fucks them. So that's wild.
It's like interactive jack off material.
It is, and there are. You go into back in the days of, before that on sites like Newgrounds or other like just flash game sites, like the stupid little games you'll play on your break. There were a lot of more pornographic games there too, and that's actually where I saw some of my my first ones, and they were very much point and click, drawn on pictures that will slowly lose pieces of clothing as you go through it. So
Oh, I forgot about that stuff.
I remember that stuff.
yeah.
Well, that's kind of like, wait, do I still have it? Hang on. That reminds me of, it's right here. Okay, so my dad gave me this pen a long time ago. You really can't see it. But it's a pen, and it has a dude on it, and he's wearing briefs. But if you turn it upside down, his swim trunks come off. It's like a vintage porn pen from like probably the 60s.
Yeah.
My dad picked it up somewhere in his travels and thought it was kind of comical, and he was like, "Here," and I was like, "What the hell?" But I figured out pretty quickly what it is, and I was like, "Oh, if I hold it incorrectly, he ain't got no skivvies on." But it makes me think of what you're talking about, like where you click and then like, you know, the layers kind of disappear or
like almost like a dating sim where you pick the right choice and it may get them to get into bed with you.
Interesting.
Are we starting to lean towards Dream Daddy?
Yes, we are starting to go towards Dream Daddy.
Okay, so help me understand, because I've heard of this. It was sort of like a meme thing for a little while. Like gays apparently were losing their mind over the fact that there was a video game, I guess, in which you could build your own Dream Daddy. Is that the concept?
It's a dating simulator.
Yes, it was basically a dating simulator. You created your own character, but then you went around and dating all these other dads.
Okay.
So, it was an interesting game. It's an interesting dating simulator.
It's from 2017.
Yes,
I'm using our
yes.
Wikipedia link that will be listed on our blog later, because I found this thanks to the great Google God, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. At least if I hear names, I can look at stuff and sort of read about it.
And it started from the Game Grumps, who is a YouTube duo who does a lot of playthroughs of video games, and they're really loud and obnoxious and just have fun with things. And they wanted to, they made the game. They decided to make this game more on the lines of trying to get as many dad jokes into a game as they could. But it ended up becoming this thing for that the LGBT groups basically got around, because it was the first time, and I'll put it this way, an Americanized game, American-made dating simulator game allowed that choice, really, for a completely homosexual game. The only other place you've really seen it, to be honest with you, is in Japanese visual novels. So
interesting. Yeah, from what I'm seeing, there were 7 fathers that were male playable characters. There's also a trans male character.
Yeah.
And one of the fathers has a daughter who is lesbian and has a girlfriend.
Yes.
So it's definitively in the LGBTQ realm.
And to slightly pimp them, the Dream Daddy Director cut is $15 on Steam. So
yeah, but
add
that was
to cart.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually. Like I said, like you don't really see this kind of stuff except in like a lot of Japanese side of visual novels. I was actually just looking through. There is a Japanese mobile game called what is it called in English? High School After School Summoners or something like that. But all the characters that you summon in the game are bearish, half-naked guys.
Really?
Yes.
Where is this again?
It's on Steam.
Tokyo After School Summoners. If my screen will.
Oh.
Tokyo After School Summoners. Interesting.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get pictures. Yeah. And
So the character's mostly naked, but not fully naked. Is that what I'm?
They are. Most of them are half naked. Some of them may even lose clothes as they go up in levels.
Well, that kind of sounds like life.
So, and it's really interesting. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting game. But that's good. Just in terms of where I'm going with when it comes to the Japanese side is more apt to do stuff like that. The Japanese culture gaming. So,
interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah.
So
as you look through like some of the list of the games, like some of them were obviously Japanese imports.
Yeah.
And sometimes the characters were changed, sometimes they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they were changed. You go on just Megami Tensei and Persona games. They'll change a lot of the characters in that when they brought it over to America. A lot of the storylines, they'll cut certain words out or they'll cut certain scenes out that won't particularly push things that way. Instead of like Persona 4, instead of Kanji being outright bisexual, they try to push it towards he's this big macho guy who likes to knit and do what is more known as girly things. So so there's things like that. This is also where because there's actually also a game that's not listed on this list in the Persona series, and that's the most recent one, Persona 5. Where none of the characters were explicitly gay except for this one pair of. Well, first off, there is a drag queen. There is a drag queen in that game, which is awesome. She's a bar owner. But you don't in Japanese games. Sometimes they'll take them seriously as an actual storyline. Other times they use it as a joke. And they go too far, and that's what happened in Persona 5. There was these two side characters that came up who were extremely flamboyant, who basically were predatorizing on one of the main characters, who, by the way, is a high schooler.
Ooh.
Yeah, it
and
was.
What game was this?
This is Persona 5. It is a scene that I will continuously turn off the TV during because it is very uncomfortable to watch. Otherwise, the game is absolutely fantastic. That was just one part that, as a gay man, made me feel very uncomfortable. But this is also a lot of the politics. Being, yeah, we have a lot of problems with being gay here in the U.S. It's even worse in Japan. They don't even have any sort of civil rights for LGBT in Japan. So a lot of those LGBT characters get thrown into comedic and bit characters, and they are seen in a different way. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see.
Like you said, it's kind of a joke or a side kind of. This isn't really, you would never really think about this as something you would want.
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to be gay in Japan.
No.
Well, maybe they just like to have sex with the others of the same gender, which is not the same thing as being gay.
We won't get into that.
That was sort of
that's a conversation for another time. That's definitely a conversation for another time.
So,
I've met a couple people.
From what I could see in this grid, it appears, I would say in the table that like maybe in the past 5 years, there's been a big upswing if there was a graph in terms of the number of characters that are lesbian, gay, bi, intersex, trans, pansexual, like, and I'm not necessarily surprised by that. I think it's sort of representative of the world community in a very slow glacier moving evolution of accepting individuals as characters.
Yes, definitely. Like one of the more recent ones was with The Last of Us, where at E3 they revealed the main character Ellie to be gay, and that's what set off a big storm on like social media about it, because obviously we're all happy that we're getting more representation in games, while the angry white boys behind their keyboards don't want to play as a gay character without choosing it themselves, because every single one of them chose the lesbian route in Mass Effect.
Female shepherd.
Yes.
Romancing.
And that's the interesting that I've seen, is that when you get to choose your path, there's more acceptance for it. Like in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, in Mass Effect, in The Sims, you can, if you have the choice to go that way, it's more accepted. But if you are put into a character where you are gay, and this is the same thing that happens with Overwatch, as they reveal certain characters to be gay, there is more of an uproar about it, because angry white boys don't want to be forced into be playing a gay character.
And I really, really liked Soldier 76 at the beginning. Now I know why.
But and I will say I like how Blizzard does it, because they do it. They don't make the fact that they're gay as a main plot point. It is a passing thing. It is just a picture that you see, and that is it.
Like the Tracer reveal was just in their little holiday comic. It was showing it was showing her trying to find a present for her girlfriend. And then just I think it was just a story. I don't think it was a comic. I haven't actually read it. Anna and Jack Morrison, who's Soldier 76, we're just talking about a guy named Vincent. It's like, do you still have a thing for this guy? Just kind of like a comment about something just being brought up because of this situation, not because of any like that's the focus of the story or anything.
Yeah.
So
no, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question and I forgot what it was. So this is the thing, Chris, that you had said that I really found interesting, is that if you have the option to choose, it appears in the gaming community, people are much more comfortable with the existence of LGBTQ gaming characters, but to have it forced upon you that you have no choice but for this character to be that way is where there's issues.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about that is there's a part of me that's thinking, oh, so maybe like psychologically, not that I have this expectation, people would understand the vast difference between it's a choice and this is how you're born. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way before.
Like, because the moment you said that, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry that you don't like the fact that you have no choice but to be this. And that's not okay with you. Like, maybe that gives you one thread of an insight to what it's like to be a member of, you know, so to speak, the alphabet community, that this is who we truly are, and we don't really choose our, you know, our role, so to speak.
We can't unlock that, you know, heterosexual vibe. We can't just like click a button and change it.
Exactly. You can't choose this option to be gay or this option to be straight.
Right. I mean, and I think it's interesting because video games, when you're building your character, I've seen many a times, especially I think it's Overwatch that friends of mine play. They're constantly like switching characters for different rounds, I think, and then they choose different outfits. And interestingly, now because I'm on this other psychological track, I'm thinking, like, yeah, you have limitations in what you can choose from, but you get to choose how you look, like how you present yourself.
Yeah.
Which is to me an interesting parallel to like real life. Like, as has been said before, RuPaul says, you know, you were born naked and the rest is drag. Like, you choose how you present yourself to the world. And I think that's some of what happens with gaming characters. But back to the point about if you get to choose to play the character is more palatable than I have no choice. But, you know, if I play this character automatically, I am X, whatever X may be.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see like that whenever you see any uproar from the gaming community on either side, positive or negative, it's always because they don't have a choice. But it also works the other way because I actually just put an article in the Google Doc for Assassin's Creed Odyssey when that game first dropped. They had you only have a heterosexual option when you're dating other characters. And GLAD actually reached out to Ubisoft and worked with them to help better that inclusion, and they've been working with video game developers for a bit now as well. There's this whole article that I just put in about GLAD and how they work with developers to give more inclusive options for us. And it's really interesting to see.
Well, I mean, and I think that's fair, though. I mean, if it takes an entity to be representative of the community in some fashion and basically say, hey, like, not to be super nitpicky, but
but I'm gonna be super nitpicky.
Right. I mean, and that's one of the things I've heard over the years is that there's an issue in terms of like programmers and companies that make the games that they don't really ever consider like true representation to the gaming community, meaning like anybody that could play in that case. Like women are like disproportioned, like, you know, in terms of their, you know, sizing, the clothes that they wear, which I mean, this goes on and on. I mean, it's even like in the superhero realm, you know, they're like, oh, why do the men never have to pose like the women, you know?
And a lot of it is the industry itself. Like, I mean, I'll give an example of my company from where I last worked. We were a company about 350 people. We had 5 women.
Wow.
5 female developers. And I was one of 2 LGBT developers.
Wow.
And
okay, so now I'm really curious. How did that feel like? Like, was it a bother to you? Did you find it a struggle, or?
If it wasn't for the fact that I was working on Call of Duty, I'd probably be a little bit more comfortable. But we know very well how that player base is. They are very toxic. They are very man, bro, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So I didn't come out at work for a good while. It wasn't until. So here's the story. My friend was my lead at the time was playing a game called XCOM, where it's a strategy-based game where you're fighting aliens, and you're able to make characters on your team, give them names, nationalities, looks like real people. So he decided to go in and create members of us that we work with to put into the game. And so he was trying to look us up on Facebook because we were Facebook friends, and get pictures to make a good likeness. But when he searched my name, he found my alternative profile first.
Oops.
Oh.
Well, a question from the gallery. Which alternative?
The one that you're on is my
alternative. Well, okay. I didn't know if you had multiples. Like if
I have 2 profiles, one that I keep for work and professional family life, and one that I will say whatever the fuck I want.
Okay. I didn't know if you had split yourself like into multiples, like if each of your interests or whatever, like if there was, as just general examples, if there was one for kink and one for pop and one for, you know what I mean? And like
that would be a bitch to manage, honestly.
Yeah. There's not a separate Puperiku page. So so he found that profile, and the next day at work asked me about it. And this created a whole thing where somebody else it brought up the profile and started scrolling through my profile pictures, which included me in leather, me shirtless, and I just found out. And then I was just like, fuck it, because I wasn't out to you guys yet. And it went silent, and everyone went back to their seats. And next thing I'm doing is I'm getting messages from them apologizing. After that happened, I wish I would have came out earlier, because that company was actually extremely welcoming.
Despite the community of the game, the company's amazing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it was interesting to see that I was putting the perception that that with how this game is, everyone is like that, but it's not. And I was very happy I finally came out. They started to be a lot better about language, about what they say, and it was really good. It was really good. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So from your experience being out, being representative of the minority at the workplace, adjusted the workplace, like it helped them recognize their own behaviors because they didn't know how they were behaving before. Yeah, in a way, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. It definitely helped. I had a couple conversations with a few others. They ended up hiring a couple other LGBT developers after while I was there and after I left. So it's really good to see the change, and I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and they're still checking in on me and seeing how things are going, and seeing the changes that they've made internally just to make sure that they're more inclusive. Activision actually, one initiative that I started before I left is that started the conversation about getting Activision on the HRC's best places to work list.
Ooh.
It's a whole process for that. But we started. I at least got to start that conversation before I ended up leaving.
That's really awesome, Chris.
Yeah.
Like I feel really proud of you. Like deciding like, okay, so now that the proverbial puppy's out of the pen, and y'all know some things you never knew about me before.
Yes.
Moving forward, that you felt comfortable in the work environment to kind of like adjust some things. And that isn't to say that you had such a, I guess, impression or a mark upon the company that Now, they're comfortable with everything.
Yeah.
I think it's incremental, that they adjust and recognize some stuff in that case.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's been part of the case in terms of gaming characters. Like, slowly over time, companies find out about their employees, and that helps them address like the gamer community at large, how to make more representation in the characters.
Oh yeah. I think so. I think it definitely has an impact, because especially for those who work on more of the creative side of things when it comes to the characters, when it comes to the story and such. One person I'm going to suggest to follow on Twitter is a guy by the name of Boone Cotter. He is a developer for Naughty Dog, who works on Last of Us. He is an LGBT developer who, especially once the whole thing about Last of Us came out, talked a lot about it. He's also hot as all hell, I'll tell you that.
And we're searching.
Oh, definitely do. He just recently reposted his pic from when he did the Men in Video Gaming calendar spread.
So what is his name again that we're looking for on Twitter?
Boone Cotter. Hold on.
Or Cutter Boone.
Give me a second.
I think I found him. Harry Aussie Homo living in California.
Yes.
And follow.
Nope, that's not him.
I'll throw it in the.
He's at Boone Cotter. Like, it's BOONCOTTER for those listening at home.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was spelling Boone with an E at the end.
Came home to a beefy stud making chicken pesto penne for dinner.
Yep. And then the next one down is the picture he got from the game dev calendar.
Whoa!
Wait, hold on. Pictures.
And distracted.
Yeah, totally.
Hello, you've been on this show before.
I know. Twice.
Okay, there's something very artistic about this man drinking milk and spilling it all over himself in a jock in the white bathroom. I'm just gonna say, like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Follow. Okay.
Yeah. He worked on Uncharted. He worked on Last of Us. And when a lot of that controversy with Last of Us came out, I know he really spoke up about it, because he, obviously being an LGBT member of the community, of the gaming community, he's entitled to his opinion on how he wants things to be. So.
Ooh, okay. So shout out to him for March 8th. He retweeted Naughty Dog. They did a post for International Women's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, to all the women at Naughty Dog in the industry that play our games and around the world, we're proud to celebrate you and share and support of International Women's Day. And there's like a little video thing. Yeah. I as a person who don't game, like, am impressed by that. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
because
like,
especially considering all the shit women have gotten for being game devs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you look at certain companies, like, for example, I think it was Riot Games, when there was a reveal from someone who left Riot Games of a lot of misogyny in their own office and a lot of issues there. Yeah. Yes, there was a lot. There's a whole thing on Riot Games and the sexism that was going on there.
So January 17th, he has this great screenshot post, and he says, for context, here's the original text that encouraged me to apply. I had zero chance of getting the job, and yet here I am. And it's a link to naughtydog.com, like, careers. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I just saw that too. Yeah, like, it was
that's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for the recommendation.
Of course. Like I said, like, he's also, like, supposed there's selfies, which is nice to see. But also when you see his, as he talks about his time in gaming development is really interesting to watch, especially on such a big name game such as Last of Us and Uncharted and the like.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Interesting. So, in terms of like gaming characters,
sorry, yeah, we kind of went off track.
No, that's fine.
No,
in the development of them, what are your thoughts about like that inclusivity? I mean, it is important. So that's to me, that's a given that there are those character representations, whether you can select them in your development of your character or it's part of the storyline, the back history, context. Do you think like it's moving into the mainstream in that it's just a given that there will be characters that are LGBTQ and like people are becoming more and more adjusted to that? I don't want to say comfortable, but that or accepting, but that they do exist.
It's going definitely in that direction that that they're going to be more expected in games. Like I'm looking through this list, and while it's a really comprehensive list, a lot of these characters are small side characters and stuff like that. But as we go on, we're going to see more of things that have happened in Overwatch or Last of Us, or where it's not the centerpiece of their character, and there will just your male hunk of a character will have a husband. It will happen.
And there's plenty of games where something like that is similar. Like even the ever popular Stardew Valley. Basically, he just made it so these people, this group of people are single, and you can romance them. He doesn't put in anything specifically in regards to what gender the player makes their character.
Yeah.
And it's just, you could romance any of them and not having anything. And the only thing that it does is the system compares. Okay, are they the same gender? Okay, they will adopt children. They won't have children.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference.
Yeah, and you look at games like Mass Effect that did the same thing, where you can romance any of the characters, whether male or female. You look at Dragon Age as well. That's another big one where now you're also transcending, and that becomes an even more interesting story because it doesn't just transcend gender, it also transcends race as well. Because now you can be a human that's dating an orc.
I know of at least one person that might find that very interesting.
I don't know why you're talking in the third person.
Well, I was actually thinking more along the lines of Smashy, but you know. I suppose that could work.
Listen to you. I suppose that could work. I suppose I could be into a big like dude who was into me. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, frankly, I would probably be more into Torin, but you know, take the bull by the horns, if you know what I mean.
I mean, you were even saying before with Strange Flesh, with getting turned on by that.
Well, I mean, when you take the archetype of hypermasculinity, like this, 7 foot, big, muscular, bald head, big mustachioed, sunglasses wearing, leather type daddy dude is the main character. And then one of the actions and to defeat the enemies is to fuck them senselessly till they come. Hello. I mean, the programmers
and to be fair, it's a finishing move. You could just knock them out, but
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, point.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
the game takes a little longer because you have to go through the animations of the whole sex thing, but other than that,
The first time I played that game and the animation, and he like starts fucking somebody, I was like, "What?" And then the time where he uses his foot to give a foot job to another character, like mind blown. I was like, "Who created this stuff? Like, can I meet them in person and express my gratitude? Because this is just crazy."
Oh my.
David has obviously not played this game. It does not.
I have not.
Exactly.
I've seen the videos and I've seen things, but I'm just like, holy. Oh, okay.
I might have
It
to
is
like
very,
record a session of Strange Flesh for you.
Yeah, it's definitively XXX adult, not for kids.
You will not find it on Twitch.
It is definitely not something that maybe Chatterbait.
I think that might be against the rules.
No, because I did get an email from Chatterbait saying that they were highlighting some of their models who are gamers a while back. Maybe you can.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, and the only reason why I know about playing the game is because you had the option to download it to a PC.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so I can play it like on a tablet, not on a tablet, but like on my laptop, like on the MacBook or on the PC or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, like if I can download it. And to be fair, it's technology wise not as sophisticated and high def, like like most people think of in terms of video games now. So it is very much like old school throwback aesthetic.
Oh yeah.
And that was part of the thing where I was like, okay, although it did take me a while to like figure out some like maneuvering because I'm going by keyword. So I'm trying to remember which key does what thing because I'm just not that type of an individual. But yeah, I mean, so I think that in terms of, characters that are developed and that are out there, from the sounds of it, what you're saying, Chris, is like if there's ever an uproar or, kind of a big issue that rises up, nowadays it seems it's one of two things, like people being butthurt, learning something about a character that they love that they never knew before.
Yeah.
Or that there isn't correct representation, like, or that there's something hanky about the representation.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's very much the uproar these days is because people don't want to be forced into playing a gay character, or again, it just takes them by shock because sometimes folks, and it's not just maybe not much of an acceptance things, but they may also see it as doing it for the sake of just doing it. Like, I mean, do you see online a lot of there's a meme going around right now about J.K. Rowling, about Harry Potter and some of the things that she's been giving away about characters and how she's like basically saying things just to appease an audience. And that's sometimes a lot of people feel with, like, for example, with Overwatch, with folks, with them having certain characters be gay for the sake of having somebody who's gay and not for any development reasons.
That was actually what I was gonna talk about. It's like where like sometimes it seems as though they're doing it for the sake of, well, let's go ahead and throw this in there, let it cause controversy, let it cause people to get angry and upset, and then eventually it'll die down, but it does mean some popularity for our game.
Well, so for the sounds of it, if I'm hearing this correctly, like there's issues about characters or storylines or something that they're basically being retconned, that retroactively the continuity or the perception of something is now different because of new information that's been released.
Or at least it's perceived that way.
Like in the case of Overwatch, you don't know anything about their personal life when they first launch.
Yeah.
But as they release these lore bits, because it just kind of, as I said, it really is just more of it comes up. It's a passing thing, and they just end up, they're actually this, and it's this. Well, it's because it never really came up. And it
Yeah.
just
Right.
happens this situation was a good point. Like, Tracer finding his girlfriend a Christmas present. I mean,
Yeah.
of course.
So, and it becomes and that lays the question is how much pre-planning did they have of that? Did they have this backstory for Tracer this entire time, or at that moment they saw an opportunity to make Tracer gay for the sake of having a gay character?
Probably
and
a
that's-
question for Chris Metzen.
Yeah. But that becomes the question. But that becomes the question with a lot of these, when it comes to living games like this, Apex Legends that just came out, or any of these games where they can just add a story to someone that didn't previously had it. Did the developers have this in mind from the start, and it just was poor delivery, or did they just, oh, we're gonna put in a gay character, we're gonna make them gay just for the fact of making them gay because whatever reasoning behind it,
Or kind of a combination thereof, where they didn't necessarily have it in mind, but when they got kind of more of, hey, I want to get more into this character. What do we know about this? Oh, you know what? What if he had a husband?
yeah,
You know, and it's not necessarily they're putting it in for the sake of having a gay character in the game. It's just they're like, oh yeah, this will be the point for this character. It's not because we need, oh no, we need a gay person in the game. No, it's just
It can. The concern can sometimes be it could become a part of tokenism, and I'm going to use that word here because it's like, oh, we need we want a gay character. Let's just make one, and that'll be it. And there'll be our gay representative throughout, the course of game.
So here's a question I have, because I was curious. I was looking through the table about something. So Red Dead Redemption 2 came out earlier this year. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that new version has any gay characters. According to this table, as of right now when we're recording, there's nothing listed. Red Dead Redemption in 2010, though, had a gay character and a lesbian character. Yeah. And as Chris was saying, a lot of them seem to be side characters or peripheries. So the lesbian female NPC is involved in a side mission. After the mission's completed, it says she's seen flirting with female prostitutes in a nearby bar on occasion. And I was like, at first I was kind of like, oh, well, isn't that quaint? They just happened to put that in there. So there's some representation, air quotes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, but wait a minute. Am I being harshly judgmental about that? Because is that not also maybe a way to just interpret that these characters just exist, period?
Yeah.
And therefore, if you notice it and see it in the background, it's no different than if you notice and see something in real life. And I'm not defending. I'm just very much trying to consider whether or not what Damon, you were bringing up is fair, that you can help understand or say that really looks like you're just serving up because you think it's the right thing to do versus genuinely just randomizing and representation.
Just for its and giggles, it takes a while to develop a game, correct?
Yeah. Oh, right? Yes.
Everything, all the characters, putting things in. You can't just throw something in there after the fact. I mean, you could potentially if you make a update or whatever, but yeah. So it's just one of those things where you have to, one of those things like this where, yes, it's a background character. Yes, it's maybe not the main story. Maybe it's not a plot line that you necessarily need to follow. But hey, it's there. But it's not that it wasn't just put there to gay rights or gays are allowed to marry now, blah blah blah. Let's throw in a gay character for the sake of throwing it in. No, this was probably in part of the development in some way.
Yes.
Now the lore, we were talking about with Overwatch and stuff, that could potentially be an after the fact thought, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a lot to flesh out a character.
Yeah. And not necessarily, and as I said, not necessarily intent of we have to have a gay character. They just determine that the character just happens to be gay.
Yeah.
Well, so that brings up an interesting point that I'm curious to know what all of you think about this, because I don't consider any of that. But if a new gaming universe is created, let's say, and when it first is introduced, maybe a character is LGBTQ, and then later on you discover that other characters, their identity is revealed to be. Do you think that that's okay that as the popularity grows and the company grows and the gaming, universe starts to expand and blah blah blah, that they reveal these backgrounds that were not known before, and it's really on the players then that they have to internally deal with their own issues. And by that I mean, like, they presumed that character Zed was actually straight when in fact they're pansexual or something. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense of what I'm getting at, but I don't necessarily see an issue as an outsider, like, with the fact that it's revealed at a later time that what you thought was one way is not, if there's nothing to go in support to the opposite. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like all of a sudden you're like, well, wait, like, all of these conversations or all these things pointed to the fact that they're attracted to an opposite gender or whatever. And now you're saying, like, this is different. Because there's some of the things I've been reading and hearing is like, well, actually, if you pay attention to the clues, like, if you actually read what the dialogue was or their actions, you never really got a definitive yes or no, or a directional indication about a character.
Yeah, I mean, it's curious. I'm fine with it kind of either way. I think to me, it's a matter of how you want to play the game. Like, for most people, most of the time, the game is about getting to the end. I think if that's a given, and so some things are oftentimes not necessary or like, in the grand scheme of things, the idea is to get from point A to point B, as an example. Beat the bad guy, win the game, whatever. So if that's the case, then some of the other stuff may not necessarily be relevant to the purpose of the game. However, what we've learned, especially recently, is a lot of people want to know more about these characters that they're playing. And I mean, hell, as someone who played Street Fighter, growing up and, at the arcade and whatever, like, I've been reading recently a lot of the stuff about some of the Street Fighter characters and stuff that they, built up in the games and in the story modes and what have you. And it's just like, that's really interesting that they kind of made this whole background story, and it gives you a reason for why they're doing what they're doing. That's sometimes great to have, but not necessarily necessary.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I was to discover as I'm playing a game that a character is gay, I guess it just really is dependent on how it's handled. Like, if it's just dropped on me out of the blue, I probably would raise an eyebrow and be like, well, that seems curious.
Yeah.
Whereas if it seems more natural as a discovery, like, maybe this character has amnesia and isn't familiar with who they are, and then they discover, like, journals or diaries or some other, mechanism that reveals that, they, once had a great love with another individual who happens to be the same gender. Like, to me, that would seem more of a natural kind of, like, aha, like, oh, okay, did not know that before.
Yeah.
Because you are discovering as the character things that were not known previously, as opposed to just, all of, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, that makes it much more, I guess, curious about why a random factoid would be dropped in. In this case, and you're kind of like, okay, is it relevant? Does it matter? How does it, go with other things?
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like that relevancy to the plot line or whatever, I don't mind as much in terms of the lack of relevancy, I should say. I don't mind as much because we see so many stories when it comes to LGBT characters, and not just in games, but in movies and television and such, where the fact that they're gay is the center point of their story. I would still love to see it be a fact about them, but have absolutely nothing to do with their character development, their storyline and such, because that'll give a lot better representation, I feel. And so, like, I see what you're saying with it just getting dropped on you just as a matter of fact, but you also I wouldn't mind it being like something that's established at the beginning of a story where, hey, this person wakes up in the morning in the very first scene with their same-sex partner. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it is.
Right.
I would much prefer something like that. In terms of dropping down a fact rather than midway through playing through it, oh, by the way, they're gay.
Right. Well, I mean, it's interesting because when you said that, the first thing that came to mind, which isn't gaming technically, but was the reaction to, hopefully I get these references right, Sulu in the J.J. Abrams version of the universe for Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And that whole situation about him, being in a same-sex relationship with a family, mm-hmm. and how like people felt that was shoving it in people's faces. And well, I mean, and that's definitely a different circumstance because this is a pre-existing character and there was, you know, a lot of like backstory context that people, brought to the foray. But I agree with you. Like if it's just a matter of fact revelation, it's far more, I think, acceptable in that it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, okay. And I could see where, gamers would definitively have a reaction if they're playing a character and they don't know this about the character mm-hmm. that they're playing. And then all of a sudden they're kind of like, whoa, wait a second. I was not prepared, for... I mean, and this is a really extreme example, but I could see where someone would, be really upset if they were playing a character and then another character of the same gender kind of hits on them. And suddenly you realize that like, you're okay with this and your actions, your next like steps allow you to continue on this path, and you may not be ready for what that, brings about.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's something that would have to be, I feel like, established way beforehand.
Yeah.
Or at least in and that's something like where one of these free choice games like Mass Effect, like Dragon Age, where you may not be prepared, like you may be just choosing options just to get through the dialogue, and you may end up inadvertently triggering the romantic option, and all of a sudden the same-sex character is now flirting with you more and saying they have feelings for you, and caught off guard mm-hmm. as well. So I could see it in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel mixed about that because there's a part of me that's like, if someone, wasn't expecting it, like, is it that bad of a thing? I don't know why I'm phrasing it like that. It reminds me of like a tweet I saw recently in which someone was counterbalancing the whole issue about, finding out, that someone's gay or whatever. And it was giving a ton of examples of about how, being an LGBTQ person, you are constantly like, in a way, hyper vigilant about mm-hmm. how you carry yourself in the world and how you react to things and the stuff that you see around you, because you are not, from the moment you come into the world, and this is just a broad representation, mm-hmm. the statement, mm-hmm. you are not supported, you are not like felt inclusive, because so much of everything that comes at you is not about you. It doesn't show you mm-hmm. who you are. It shows the majority.
Yeah.
In that case. So I can understand how a person that is not prepared for that would be bent out of shape. Mm-hmm. To me, that's more indicative, though, about the fact that we overall, at a large utopian concept, have failed as a society to help people just be more accepting, period. Yeah. And not really care whether or not, a character is not, what you thought or was as interesting, I guess. I don't know. It's difficult to say. And then there's a part of me that's like, how much does this stuff really matter in the type of game that it is? Like, if you're developing a life and doing things along those lines of a character, I could see where that would be important. But if it's like, for lack of a better reference, I guess, if it's first shooter and the whole point is just like to take out an enemy, does it really matter whether or not the character sucks dick? I mean, like, I'm just asking because I'm thinking that means nothing to the moment. The fact that you're just killing zeros and ones on a screen, like,
And to be fair, Soldier 76 is relatively hyper masculine. I mean, he carries a big gun. And he shoots all over the place.
That I'm dumb. Puns intended.
He pumps his gun and starts firing.
But at the same time, when you think about the representation, in like almost like feels like that's like with Soldier 76 when you think about him being this forces operative. Mm-hmm. You can draw that parallel to like the military.
Mm-hmm. But if you see his outfit before he became Soldier 76, and he was just plain ordinary Jack Morrison. I mean, he looked fabulous.
Wow.
I mean, the long coat. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
I think when you look back at some of the things, it's like, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays he's got his deep voice. We're all soldiers now. But yeah. Anyways, sorry. Yeah. I have a thing for Soldier 76 apparently.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my hope is for the future in terms of this topic that there's more inclusivity, people feel more comfortable about the representation that takes place, and that, you know, we really move more into like the main character realm as opposed to the side character, and start leaving behind the tropes that we saw in media for a long time, that the LGBTQ individuals are the, you know, butt of jokes and kind of, you know, silly antics and characters to be made fun of, or those type of things.
Yeah, and that's with all media, really. I feel like television, movies, all that. Like, we need more of that.
So, in terms of that, Chris, I'm curious to know from your experience on being on the inside, and by that I mean like working in the past with the quality aspect, do you feel that gaming companies are receptive to player like feedback and demands on, you know, how games work and the character development? Like, if not to make changes with patches, but to really think seriously in the future about that type of stuff? Because I don't know. Like, I see things about how, you know, women get really pissy about, you know, it's like, why is she always like, you know, strapped clad in clothing that shows off her ass and her tits? Like, I think it's a legitimate question, because I'm like, yeah, some women dress that way, but the majority of them just to be comfortable, not to, you know, show off every.
If you're doing like armor and stuff, like, you're gonna get hurt if you wear an armor that's just straps and bustiers and shit. Like,
best way I can describe it without giving too much away is money sells. Money talks.
Okay.
Money talks, sex sells.
Yeah. It's when there is a development of characters, they look at what sold and what doesn't sell. And unfortunately, that's what drives it. And it is a very, very much like a lot of what we see is a money-making business. Now, if we've had more voices in the industry to push back and to push on this, great, awesome. We just need those voices. And that doesn't happen often.
And some companies definitely do listen when people are getting kind of bent out of shape. For example, going back to Tracer, when she came out, she had was it an ending pose? One of her poses was really like showing off her butt, and I mean, she's got a nice ass for a woman, but there was a lot of people being, whoa, hold on, and then Blizzard went back and they're like, yeah, you are totally right, and they changed it. They got rid of it, and I think she just different direction, but a similar pose or something like that, just so it's not as much of a butt shot.
Yeah,
but wasn't it? She was just kind of like looking over her shoulder or something like that. and it's just because of the way she was doing it, it just kind of like showed off her butt. And
Camera
like
angle
I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can see what you're talking about, but it's just from looking over the shoulder. I bet you anything, if she was just walking around and she was looking over her shoulder like that, that's exactly what you would see. Anyway, so
But I think that brings up
I can understand the point. So
I think it brings up an interesting point, though, that's difficult because all of this stuff has to be created as content. So while you can say, well, that's probably like a natural post, yes, but it had to be programmed that way. It's not a real person who you have to question their motivation.
Move the camera a little
and say whether or not they were, strategically posing a certain way or whether they weren't. Because it's not a free-thinking entity. It's not even like, in the future, like an AI character. Mm-hmm. It's literally someone somewhere, a group of individuals, a team, plus more, agreed to and signed off on this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who are most likely mostly men, because for some strange reason, women need to get out there, and those companies need to start hiring more women.
They do.
Because I know there have been a lot of great women game developers. And there could be more if women and girls also pursue it if they're interested, because I know there's lots of girls gamers. So, anyways, so and I'm just saying, I really think that more women just need to get in that thing, and I think they need to understand that they do have the potential to do it.
And I think that, Chris, you bring up an excellent point. Like these are both valid in that more inclusivity in terms of the employees will help the representation within gaming itself, but also, it's a business. Money sells, and people get pissy about how, like, the greater good doesn't win out because the dollar is what's the driving force. The whole reason these things exist is because somebody somewhere is making some money. Yes, everyone involved in the company gets to put a roof over their head and be able to eat and all that. However, like, it's still a business, and I think that's one of the things that people struggle with is their own internal like morality, I guess, about whether or not to support a business, because they have a right to be in existence to make money. You just don't like the fact that they make money off of a not great product, I guess.
Yeah, and we get to see a lot of that data too in terms of sales and how things go. And I mean, it's with there could be the vocal minority out there that is vocalizing a certain part of the game that they absolutely hate, but then we can look at our data and see, well, yeah, you're like the 2% of people that don't like this. But when we start seeing that the voices we're hearing is correlating to what we're actually seeing in terms of the data, is more likely the actions that's going to happen. If you have a problem with Tracer with that pose, make the complaint, but also don't play Tracer. That'll send a message. Yeah, and that happens a lot we see that data and we realize, okay, this isn't working. We do need to change this or we're going to suffer. Unfortunately, I hate to put it that way, but money talks. And it works like both, what sells for them, but also what isn't selling for them. Mm-hmm. Right? So,
and do keep in mind, one of the most famous armored women was Samus.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody even knew she was a woman for the longest time.
Yep.
Samus from Metroid.
Yes.
So that was okay. So for someone who doesn't know, this is kind of like the whole issue about, and I forgot the character's name in Star Wars, that the actress from Game of Thrones is in.
Oh, God.
Phantasma.
Yeah, Phasma.
Or Phasma, the silver stormtrooper captain.
Mm-hmm.
How people like had an issue about the fact you can't tell that she's a woman. Well, yeah.
Who cares?
And
that's
your point.
Right? Like, just because
you want her
when you get
underneath her armor doesn't mean you need to see.
I was gonna, do you need the armor to have boob slots?
Yeah.
You'll find out when you hear her voice. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, does she need breasticles?
Right.
Is that what we need? Like, to make sure that you know that she's a woman?
Right.
Her armor looks different because she's female. If you've not noticed, like, almost all of the stormtroopers look the same. There's a reason for that. Like,
all stormtroopers
They're all
in
normal
armor
numbers.
have pecs.
Yeah. Anyways. Enough of that. Sorry, I didn't meant to bring that up on this topic, but like that's what came to mind when you guys was like, nobody knew about this character being female because of the armor, and I'm like, well, yeah, like isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah.
of armor.
Yeah. To be protective and to not make an individual necessarily stand out, so it makes it harder to determine who they are.
I can kind of understand sometimes having a little bit of breasty armor. It just for support reasons for the girls, for lack of a better term. But not necessarily.
Well, yeah, I think there's a difference between like structure, like underneath versus what's external, and I think that's the key issue is like where you're looking at, okay, this is very fantastical as opposed to realistic, in that case, and I think that's where all that representation becomes problematic, because you're kind of like, does this character really need a skin tight Lycra suit, that basically shows off damn near everything without it being naked? Like, so she has perky nipples, but you can't see a visible penis line on him.
Have you seen some of the have you seen some of the outfits that the Power Rangers wear? Anyways, moving on.
More topics for more shows in the future.
That's another show. Anyways, hey, guess what, folks? That's the end. Plenty of ways to contact us. Pop over to our website, cubsoutloud.com. You can shoot us an email at cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail, sexy or otherwise, at 361-COL-TALK. That's 361-265-8255. Put that in your speed dial on your phone. You can find us various social media outlets at Comes Out Loud in the appropriate place, the URL, such as Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm not. And right here on YouTube, if you watch the live stream or watch the video afterwards, I think I've been so used to having Google Plus there, which, by the way, is going away very, 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 very soon. So
back up your stuff
if you want to. Some it's like, I really don't care. I already posted it. I cross-posted it anyways. I already got it somewhere else. Anyways, you can join our entourage chat at tinyurl.com/telegram-COL, where we always have somebody chatting in there, sharing some Tummy Tuesdays and Thirsty Thursdays and Wednesdays and such like that. Not all the time. Not
Sunday.
Yeah. But it's there. You can find out when we're actually recording all these shows by subscribing to our Google Calendar at tinygirl.com/calendar-COL. You can get merch such as this Now That We're Sticky, Here's Your Cookie shirt, a V3 logo shirt that Gary's wearing. I mean, all at our merch store at Zazzle.com/CubsOutLoud. If you find anything that you would like on a shirt or something like that I don't have on there, let me know. Let us know. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/CubsOutLoud. It really helps with things such as the hosting, which is going to be almost $300 in a month or two a year. Very soon here. And it's really helpful considering my current monetary situation that we have a website. Anyways, and there's various levels. It's $1 a month. Anyways, you can rate us on iTunes, subscribe to us on Google Play Podcasts, and give us a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio. You can find me anywhere on the internet as Boxtet, Boxpuppy, Boxgob, Box something or other.
Woo, okay. You can find me as TheaterCub79 on most bear-related sites, or as pup_Umbra on Twitter.
If you would like to get in touch with me, I can pretty much be found online as GareBear73XXX, specifically at Twitter. And some people have been recently adding me on, and thank you for doing so, because I'm following you back, and I like your content.
Is that what they're calling it now?
I don't know if I actually follow you. Hold on a second. And you can find me. I'm pretty much Pupriku on everything except for Snapchat, which is Nabisco2K5 because I still haven't changed that. So yeah.
Okay. And hold on, I'm gonna do something quickly here. There we go. And with that, take it out, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Should be have a good one, y'all.
Yeah. How's that for oh, I should probably switch over to our post show. So anybody need a urinal? I got 4 here.
Yep.
Nice. Pop Rico has requested to follow you on Twitter. Imagine that.
Hold on a second. There we go.
Hold on to what?
It'll be light rain today.
I followed you on both the accounts.
Both of my Twitters?
Oh no, I followed you by both of my Twitters.
Oh, you have a triple X as well.
Yeah.
Oh, but I was not following your triple X, so there we go.
I don't think you're following me at all. I'm Boxscope for the
Let me fix all that.
Switch over to the account right here. Follower requests. Max.
So I had to laugh because
you cannot follow me because you have no picture and you have no description and you have Arabic stuff, so which I don't understand. So I don't really understand. Maybe if you had more information, I would do it.
Oh my God.
Do you feel better now, Damon?
Yes. Well, that part anyway.
Right.
So, sorry everyone for not being as talkative, but I literally am having difficulties breathing out of my nose. So, allergies are a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So here's my question, Damon. Is it allergies or is it a sinus infection? And I asked because I battled a sinus infection recently for like 5 days. Like I'm still having a little thingy this morning. So
well, I don't have a fever. Mm-hmm. It's going off and on each nostril, and my eyes are watering as well. So I don't think it's an infection. And we're still active live, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we can stop.
We're gonna no. You're gonna hear the grow part. There's no color in my mucus.
Okay. Right. So
mucus is clear.
That's my sign that it's not a infection and it's more just allergies. Mm-hmm. However, the allergy medications I've been taking aren't really doing much except like drying out a little bit, and then all right here was like nothing but like
Sometimes to me it's just as long as my sinuses get drained, I'm feeling okay. It's just when you get the scratchy eyes.
Yeah.
It really sucks when you're dating somebody who has a cat and you're allergic to cats.
Also true.
Mm-hmm. That is very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've only had 2 dates with them, but still.
Well, I mean, there's the awkwardness of being allergic to their house pet. There's also the awkwardness of the house pet watching you while you're trying to have an orgasm.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. Do you know how many fucks Sonnet has been watching?
Oh my God! No.
David, it's like cut the feed. We're not like nope.
You're not. No.
Keep going with the nose. I just need 50 more seconds.
No. Anyway.
No. I'm gonna stop streaming.